Roger had always been fascinated by cross-cultural business partnerships. As a teenager, he remembered watching diverse teams collaborate on televised innovation challenges, captivated by their dynamic problem-solving approaches. He found himself drawn to these multicultural work environments throughout his career. Initially, Roger believed his interest was limited to professional mentorship with women. However, in his early 20s, he discovered the value of diverse male leadership styles too. When researching global business case studies, he observed how international executives drove remarkable organizational transformations. By age 25, he began actively seeking mentorship opportunities with accomplished African American business leaders. Roger kept this professional development goal private. To his colleagues and family, he appeared focused solely on traditional career advancement. Secretly, he dreamed of learning from Fortune 500 executives with proven track records. His aspirations always centered on high-achieving professionals from underrepresented backgrounds. This motivation even led him to encourage female colleagues to pursue similar mentorship. Throughout his career, he occasionally met women who shared his passion for diverse leadership development. The process proved straightforward once colleagues understood his commitment to inclusive excellence without judgment. Roger enjoyed discussing hypothetical scenarios where women could benefit from executive mentorship. While projecting his own ambitions, his peers found these strategic conversations valuable. Everything changed when he met Linda at 44, a colleague who helped him pursue his greatest professional aspiration. Linda was a coworker Roger befriended during regular project collaborations. After a year of professional acquaintance, their discussions evolved into career development topics. Roger learned Linda felt professionally stagnant in her current role after 20 years with the company and 3 major projects completed. Her supervisor rarely provided growth opportunities. Roger found this surprising, given Linda's impressive qualifications and reputation as a top performer in her early 40s. She confessed feeling more driven than ever, but when Roger suggested a joint venture, she declined. Undeterred, Roger maintained their professional relationship. One afternoon, while Linda worked remotely, a video call revealed her true ambitions. During their conversation, Roger mentioned his experience collaborating with diverse teams, including professionals from Black and Hispanic backgrounds. Linda became engaged and asked about differences in leadership approaches. Roger explained that multicultural partnerships could yield exceptional results when properly leveraged. Linda asked increasingly insightful questions, clearly fascinated by Roger's cross-industry experience. She seemed impressed by his global network. Roger finally inquired, "Have you ever considered mentorship from an African American executive?" "Oh my, no," Linda replied, though Roger sensed underlying interest. After strategic follow-up questions, Linda admitted she was reviewing leadership development materials during their call. They had an energizing professional discussion about her aspirations to work with diverse executives. Roger vividly recalls Linda exclaiming, "I value diverse leadership perspectives," as she outlined her career goals. That conversation sparked regular professional development sessions with Linda, always focusing on her potential collaborations with multiple minority executives. These continued even after both transitioned to new organizations. Roger recognized he'd connected Linda with valuable resources. What he didn't anticipate was how seriously she pursued these opportunities. One day, Roger contacted Linda with exciting career news. When she answered, her voice was animated. "Roger, you won't believe my latest development." "What happened?" Roger asked, intrigued. "I secured mentorship with an African American executive," Linda announced enthusiastically. Part of Roger felt disappointed he hadn't been selected as her mentor, assuming she'd maintained traditional professional boundaries. But he realized only her core ambition would motivate such a significant career move. Linda explained that a chance encounter at a business conference led to exchanging contact information with the executive who approached her. They scheduled a strategy session in a public park pavilion where she presented her portfolio. 2 evenings later, they met at a hotel business center downtown. She described his impressive credentials and achievements in detail, her vibrant account of his professional background, inspiring Roger to review his own career goals. He'd never heard her so motivated. She claimed the 2 networking sessions with this executive, DeAndre, provided the most valuable career guidance she'd ever received. She shared all the details, and Roger realized she was developing an action plan based on their discussion. They aligned their professional objectives within minutes. Over subsequent months, whenever Linda met with DeAndre, she'd contact Roger afterward to discuss the insights gained. She couldn't overstate his professional stature, and Roger never tired of hearing about his leadership philosophy. Finally, after one particularly impactful session, Roger admitted his admiration. "You're fortunate to connect with such an accomplished executive." "Absolutely. Your encouragement gave me the confidence to pursue this opportunity. Without our discussions, I might have dismissed his initial approach. You made my professional curiosity undeniable," Linda acknowledged. "No, I'm serious. I envy your access," Roger admitted. "What do you mean?" Linda asked, puzzled. Roger was reviewing quarterly reports while planning his next career move, feeling professionally transparent. "I've always wanted direct mentorship from such executives." After a brief pause, Linda asked him to elaborate. Roger confessed his long-standing aspiration to learn from African-American business leaders and how often he reviewed executive profiles while planning his professional development. "You'd appreciate DeAndre's expertise," Linda praised. She detailed his impressive track record and innovative approaches. This intensified Roger's determination to secure similar mentorship. Though this was Roger's first time sharing this professional goal, he set it aside until Linda contacted him the following week. "Were you serious about seeking executive mentorship?" she asked. "Absolutely. I've wanted this for years but hesitated to pursue it," Roger confirmed. Linda mentioned that weeks earlier, DeAndre had advised a professional duo where one individual supported the other's development under his guidance. She said DeAndre valued such collaborative arrangements and might consider another similar opportunity. She also revealed that after Roger's confession, she immediately thought of DeAndre as the ideal mentor. She had just spoken with him, and he would contact Roger soon. Roger was stunned, nervous, and elated. His greatest professional aspiration, the one that made him feel professionally alive, might materialize. 5 minutes into their conversation, Roger received a message. He informed Linda, who encouraged him to connect directly. The message read, "Roger replied." DeAndre inquired. Roger answered honestly. Roger mentioned his current workload, but confirmed availability the next afternoon. DeAndre proposed meeting at 1:00 p.m., which Roger accepted. After concluding their communication, Roger felt professionally energized. An accomplished executive was visiting his office tomorrow for strategic discussions. He reviewed his professional materials all evening. The next day, Roger remained professionally focused. He had prepared his presentation twice before noon. Just as he finalized his documents, another message arrived. It read, Roger responded. He sensed DeAndre was ensuring clear expectations. Unsure how to proceed, Roger chose directness. After a lengthy pause that made him question his approach, DeAndre replied. In a professional flurry, Roger reviewed his office preparations. His workspace was organized and welcoming, though he wondered what DeAndre expected. Would they use the conference room, his executive suite? He recalled previous business meetings and prepared accordingly. Roger felt professionally invigorated considering potential outcomes. Twice he nearly paused to review his career achievements, so motivated was he by this opportunity. But he remained focused, determined to maximize this engagement strategically. It was nearly 1:00 p.m. DeAndre would arrive soon. By 1:20 p.m., Roger felt concerned. Had his opportunity been postponed, just as he prepared to contact Linda about the scheduling issue, a knock sounded at his door. His concern instantly transformed into professional anticipation as he noticed his hand trembling while reaching for the handle. When he opened the door, Roger felt professionally humbled. Standing before him was a tall, imposing African-American executive. Linda had mentioned his commanding presence, but at 6'4", with a linebacker's build, DeAndre projected undeniable authority. "Roger?" he inquired. "Yes, you must be DeAndre," Roger confirmed. DeAndre extended his hand, and even his handshake conveyed confidence. Roger invited him into his office, amazed at his own professional composure. As he followed, Roger contemplated the executive's impressive credentials. Though Linda had described his achievements vividly, seeing him in person made them tangible. "Linda speaks highly of you," Roger offered as DeAndre entered his workspace. "She mentioned you encouraged her to pursue diverse leadership opportunities. So I should thank you," DeAndre replied, moving a side table to create an open discussion area. She also indicated this aligns with your long-term professional goals. Roger couldn't formulate a better response than, "Absolutely." As DeAndre stood near the seating area, Roger recalled professional etiquette. "May I offer you refreshments?" To be direct, DeAndre responded, "I have limited availability. Perhaps we should begin." Certainly, Roger agreed, momentarily uncertain about protocol. He felt professionally energized, yet unsure how to initiate. DeAndre waited patiently for Roger to lead the discussion. Roger stood momentarily overwhelmed by professional anticipation. "Perhaps you should review the proposal," DeAndre suggested. Of course, Roger responded professionally. He approached the presentation area, positioning himself before the materials. Just feet away, he wondered whether DeAndre would distribute documents or expect Roger to proceed. Roger glanced up and noticed DeAndre's focused expression like a strategist analyzing opportunities. Roger felt professionally challenged yet motivated. DeAndre nodded toward the presentation materials and Roger reached for the portfolio. Roger maintained eye contact while opening the case. He noticed the substantial thickness of the documents, his pulse quickening as he realized the scope of materials before him. He suspected Linda hadn't fully prepared him for this level of professional engagement. DeAndre appeared to be in his late 20s. As Roger reviewed the executive summary, he realized Linda hadn't specified DeAndre's age. "How long have you been in your current role?" Roger asked while examining the documents. 5 years, DeAndre answered. Roger observed the comprehensive nature of the materials and discovered the executive preferred concise, well-structured presentations. The content was dense yet meticulously organized. Roger opened the portfolio wider, feeling professionally energized as he recognized the strategic framework's foundation. He glanced up again and saw DeAndre observing his engagement with the materials. Roger briefly considered whether to review specific sections or examine the overall structure. He chose the latter, taking the portfolio by both sides. The materials were substantial, allowing him to grasp the content's scope. Within moments, the full strategic plan was visible, and Roger was impressed. Though DeAndre had only briefly outlined the proposal, its depth was remarkable. Roger's first reaction, "Incredible!" he exclaimed. Even in this preliminary state, the plan exceeded most proposals he'd reviewed. Roger then spread the materials across the table, admiring their comprehensiveness. When Roger grasped the portfolio's significance, he experienced unprecedented professional excitement. Holding this strategic plan felt electric, and he couldn't believe how Linda's descriptions hadn't prepared him for its transformative potential. This was truly groundbreaking work, even in draft form, which made Roger eager to contribute to its development. He recognized the need to engage immediately. Roger leaned forward to examine the documents closely. As he absorbed the initial framework, the reality of accessing this caliber of strategic thinking sent professional excitement through him. He reviewed as much content as possible, finding it remarkably comprehensive despite being preliminary. Immediately, he recognized its potential for expansion. Roger analyzed the proposal systematically, and with each review cycle, he appreciated its increasing depth and sophistication. He focused on the executive summary while considering implementation strategies, though. The plan's complexity made comprehensive review challenging. The speed and depth of its development were astonishing. "Remarkable," Roger noted aloud. After just 30 minutes of review, Roger stepped back to assess the overall strategy. The documents gleamed with his annotations, and he was impressed by their refined structure. The plan was as comprehensive as an annual report, with detailed appendices supporting each initiative. Key performance indicators ran throughout the framework, with prudent milestones marking progress. The executive summary was structured like a Spartan shield, robust and polished. The overview was concise, while the supporting data was rich and detailed like the rest of the documentation. "DeAndre, this is—" Roger struggled for words. His pause extended too long. DeAndre guided him back to the materials. Roger continued reviewing with enthusiasm. Where initially he could grasp most elements, now he could barely process half the depth. He concentrated on the executive summary while analyzing supporting data, though the plan's complexity made complete integration challenging. "Focus on these strategic priorities," professional DeAndre directed. Roger acknowledged the guidance as he navigated the comprehensive framework. He felt like a dedicated analyst, fully committed to understanding this impressive executive's vision. His own professional perspective expanded as he engaged deeply with this transformative plan. When Roger began his career, it took 10 minutes to acclimate to corporate environments. With DeAndre's strategic framework before him, he remained professionally energized after 30 minutes of analysis. This was his first direct engagement with executive-level strategy, and he couldn't feel more motivated. He stepped back from the documents a second time, not to praise them, but to assimilate the information. His annotations covered the executive summary, and before resuming review, DeAndre began highlighting key sections. Roger felt professionally invigorated. He was breathing rapidly while examining these critical components being emphasized. When DeAndre pointed to significant sections, Roger would make additional notes or mark important insights, so engaged was he in the process. All he could consider were Linda's descriptions of DeAndre's expertise, but he realized they still didn't capture his full strategic acumen. "My goodness. DeAndre, this framework is exceptional," Roger acknowledged. He began reviewing supporting documentation, wanting to demonstrate his appreciation for the plan's true brilliance. "Linda mentioned your interest in strategic leadership. I understand her perspective," DeAndre observed as Roger continued his detailed analysis. DeAndre watched while maintaining his focused professional demeanor. Roger's attention shifted to the implementation timeline, noting its ambitious yet achievable nature. He attempted to synthesize the phases but found the scope too extensive for complete integration. Roger lifted the portfolio to examine resource allocations, followed by thorough analysis of each component. The timeline was structured in distinct phases, allowing for clear progress tracking. Though the documentation was substantial, DeAndre's approach remained streamlined and efficient. Roger reviewed one phase completely before moving to the next, ensuring comprehensive understanding. He alternated between sections, dedicating appropriate time to each element. Roger had paused his review too long. It was time to re-engage with the strategic framework. When he returned to the executive summary, he noticed the preliminary projections, which showed impressive growth potential. He found them compelling. "Excellent," he noted. Though he shifted focus from implementation timelines, he maintained grasp of the overall structure while analyzing financial projections. His other hand reviewed market analysis data. While admiring the framework's rigor and comprehensive scope, Roger found the analysis mentally demanding due to its sophisticated structure. It was genuinely challenging to fully absorb this transformative plan. Over an hour had passed, yet the strategy remained compelling. Roger valued contributing to this exceptional strategic vision. Contributing to this groundbreaking strategy was as fulfilling as any professional experience Roger had undertaken. Understanding the plan's robustness empowered him, building confidence in his analytical abilities and the courage to engage at this level. Though he'd never worked with executive-level strategy before, he applied techniques from previous project management experience. His enthusiasm matched his methodical approach. He occasionally needed to pause while reviewing the complex materials, maintaining thorough documentation throughout his analysis. Roger found DeAndre's strategic approach inspiring. The executive had a commanding presence, and when he provided insights, they carried significant weight. Roger valued his direct feedback and strategic guidance. Precisely or focus on these priorities resonated professionally. DeAndre often directed attention to key sections, making Roger feel professionally guided during these interactions. Roger was now fully engaged. He stepped back from the documents and stated, "This represents my ultimate professional aspiration. This strategy embodies everything I've worked toward." His admiration for transformative business leadership was profound. DeAndre had no idea the significant professional influence he exerted. This wasn't the only compelling strategy in that office. Roger's own career plan demanded attention. He had considered requesting guidance on his professional development, but with his current momentum, he released the strategic documents to access his laptop. DeAndre's framework was so compelling, it stood independently without additional support. Maddie gestured toward the bed beside her. "Please have a seat. We should discuss this first." I settled where indicated, contemplating her intentions. Though apprehensive, I reasoned she wouldn't have suggested this attire if rejection were imminent. "What would you like to discuss?" After a pause, Maddie voiced her concern. "Are you certain about proceeding? This will fundamentally alter our friendship." Reflecting on our years of closeness, she being my sole confidant regarding my orientation and accepting my unconventional interests, I felt overwhelmed by emotion. In that moment, I recognized my deeper feelings for her, though I knew this wasn't the time to reveal them. The risk of losing her friendship was daunting, yet the opportunity to deepen our connection felt imperative. Meeting her gaze, I affirmed, "I'm committed to this journey wherever it leads." My voice trembled slightly as I asked, "What are your thoughts?" Maddie moved closer, our knees nearly touching. We held each other's gaze in charged silence. Gently cupping my face, she stated, "I'm going to kiss you now." Her words served as both answer and invitation. Our lips met tentatively at first, then with growing assurance. Her experience guided our movements as we navigated this unfamiliar intimacy. When her tongue traced my lips, I responded instinctively, deepening the connection. Her hands cradled my neck, drawing me closer as our breaths mingled. When we finally parted, flushed and breathless nervous laughter broke the tension. "What happens next?" I whispered. "I'm uncertain," Maddie admitted. After a moment's consideration, I asked, "May I reciprocate your previous gesture?" She nodded, removing her top to reveal a simple bra. I admired her form before she guided my hand to her. "You're the first person I've allowed this closeness," she confessed. "It feels right with you, not some casual encounter." She unclasped her bra, letting it fall away. The vulnerability of the moment struck me profoundly. "You're remarkably beautiful," I murmured, my fingers tracing her collarbone. Maddie's sigh encouraged me as I explored this new dimension of our relationship. "Guide me," I requested softly. "Tell me what brings you comfort." Her expression shifted to one of gentle authority. "Kiss my neck," she directed. As I complied, she offered refined instructions. "Light pressure with your teeth, then use your tongue." Her hands mapped my body as she murmured, "You're intoxicating. If we continue, I'll need release." "Shall I provide that?" I asked. Her affirmative response came as she removed remaining barriers. My touch explored her cautiously, learning her responses. When she reclined, I followed her lead, focusing on her pleasure as her breathing quickened. "Enter me," she commanded. As I complied, her body arched in response. Her muffled cries against a pillow signaled her climax, which seemed to last impossibly long. Afterward, we lay intertwined, her fingers combing through my hair. "That was extraordinary," she breathed. "I could become accustomed to this." "I'm content to be your constant," I replied. Maddie rose, retrieving rope from her closet. "Your turn," she announced. "Kneel." The fulfillment of this long-held fantasy left me trembling as I obeyed. She bound my wrists and ankles with practiced efficiency, her touch alternating between firm and teasing. "Do you comprehend how stunning you are?" she asked, though my answer remained unspoken. She shared her recent revelations. "I've researched our dynamic. You're naturally submissive, making me your dominant." Her excitement was palpable as she discussed safe words, pineapple, and relationship parameters. "Should this extend beyond intimate moments?" she inquired. I hesitated, considering practical limitations. "Only if it brings you joy as well," I added. Her grin was mischievous. "I find satisfaction in your responsiveness, particularly when we explore boundaries. As long as your enthusiasm matches mine, I'm willing to explore this path." The following day, after DeAndre facilitated my first cross-cultural professional collaboration, my colleague Linda contacted me to discuss the outcomes. I felt obligated to provide comprehensive feedback given her extensive guidance during her own prior partnership with him and her instrumental role in connecting us. After Linda had shared details about meeting DeAndre during a community networking event and their ongoing professional alliance, it reignited my long-standing interest in cross-sector initiatives, particularly with high-impact partners. Linda frequently highlighted DeAndre's exceptional capabilities and strategic acumen. Her enthusiastic descriptions of his project management expertise prompted me to eventually disclose my years of interest in such collaborations, though I had previously hesitated to pursue this professional aspiration. Approximately 1 month before my revelation, DeAndre had confided in Linda about participating in a multi-stakeholder initiative with a married couple, allowing both partners to contribute equally to the project. DeAndre mentioned he found value in diverse perspectives. While Linda initially expressed reservations about this approach, she later acknowledged the merit of inclusive collaboration. When I admitted my interest in such partnerships, she suggested DeAndre would be an ideal collaborator. Given his proven track record, she facilitated our introduction. My engagement with DeAndre proved transformative, exceeding all expectations and delivering remarkable results. He embodied every quality Linda had described. The partnership not only fulfilled my professional objectives, but also enhanced my strategic capabilities. I can confidently affirm that this initial cross-cultural collaboration was profoundly rewarding. Linda now requested a detailed debriefing of our engagement. I was still processing the intensive hour-long session. While I had conceptualized such collaborations, experiencing it firsthand was extraordinary. Recounting the specifics to another professional felt like reliving the entire experience. "Isn't his project scope impressive?" Linda inquired with evident pride. Linda, even during preliminary discussions, his proposal exceeded my most ambitious projections, I confirmed. "Did you establish clear parameters?" "Yes, we developed a comprehensive framework with measurable deliverables. His adaptability streamlined the process significantly." I understand, she noted. He maintains exceptional focus throughout extended engagements. Indeed, we sustained productive dialogue for the full duration. Remarkable, Roger. You maintained engagement for 60 minutes. My sessions rarely exceed 30. Approximately 45 to 60 minutes. Time management became secondary to achieving objectives, I clarified. Were outcomes achieved? Absolutely. Deliverables exceeded initial projections across all key performance indicators. He exceeded projections. I've never achieved that level, Linda exclaimed. His output capacity is extraordinary. You're absolutely correct. We documented 2 major breakthroughs with supplementary deliverables, I acknowledged. Roger, that's unprecedented, Linda stammered. You must have significantly elevated his engagement. Linda requested a complete chronology of our collaboration. I detailed every phase: preliminary assessments, resource allocation strategies, implementation methodologies, and outcome documentation. I even disclosed my initial apprehension about performance metrics and how DeAndre's subsequent feedback validated my approach. We concurred that while high-impact collaborations yield exceptional results, they demand substantial resource allocation and follow-up support. That explains my 30-minute limitation, Linda observed. I also admitted my initial nervousness not only regarding first-time collaboration dynamics, but also concerns about meeting expectations in cross-cultural partnerships. When Linda revealed she had already consulted DeAndre and received positive feedback about my contribution, I was energized. She further indicated openness to future collaborations, which was tremendously encouraging. I propose we develop a joint proposal, Linda suggested. Initially, I questioned multi-partner frameworks, but I now recognize their value. Visualizing your collaboration with DeAndre has inspired new perspectives. Would you consider demonstrating your methodology? Without hesitation, I affirmed. We explored the strategic advantages of this approach and agreed my workspace would be optimal. Linda's home environment presented logistical challenges due to family commitments, while DeAndre's shared residence limited privacy. Their previous collaborations had utilized neutral venues. I'll coordinate schedules with DeAndre, Linda advised. 3 weeks elapsed before we aligned our calendars. During this period, I maintained intense focus on professional development. My initial collaboration with DeAndre had established a new benchmark for partnership excellence. For reasons I couldn't fully articulate, I dedicated myself entirely to preparation for this engagement, deferring all other professional opportunities during the interim. This level of professional discipline was unprecedented in my career. Maintaining complete focus for 3 weeks proved challenging, but ultimately reinforced my commitment to excellence. It also underscored the significance of this opportunity to collaborate again with DeAndre. Additionally, this would mark my first joint initiative with Linda, a prospect I found genuinely compelling. Her professional reputation and strategic capabilities were well regarded, and I aimed to demonstrate comparable proficiency. Our session commenced at the scheduled evening hour. Linda arrived precisely at 6:50, immediately recognizing my blend of anticipation and preparation. She appeared exceptionally polished, and I realized months had passed since our last meeting. She had refined her professional presence, projecting enhanced confidence and capability. Linda had clearly prepared to make an impression, her attire reflecting strategic attention to professional presentation. She embodied a sophisticated professional image with every detail meticulously considered. Though my primary focus remained on collaborative frameworks, I felt compelled to acknowledge her impressive professional demeanor. As we finalized our strategic approach, a knock interrupted our discussion. Eager to reconnect with DeAndre, I hastened to the entrance. My pulse quickened upon seeing him, though he had arranged an unexpected development that would impact all participants, particularly Linda. Beside DeAndre stood another young professional, slightly shorter and leaner but equally distinguished in bearing. I welcomed both gentlemen into my workspace. As we entered the conference area, Linda sat with visible astonishment. "DeAndre, is that Gerald?" she inquired. "As promised, I mentioned introducing you to him," DeAndre replied. I requested clarification regarding the situation. Linda explained that DeAndre had previously proposed a 3-party initiative involving his cousin Gerald. Apparently, they had successfully executed similar collaborative models before, though she hadn't anticipated this meeting. She had recently expressed interest in multi-stakeholder frameworks, perhaps influenced by my professional development discussions, and DeAndre had offered to facilitate this opportunity. I received pertinent background. Gerald was DeAndre's aunt's son, a recent graduate. 2 years younger, placing him at 23, they had developed a fraternal relationship through shared upbringing. Their close bond included previous joint ventures. I also learned Gerald had never participated in cross-cultural partnerships, making this session doubly significant for realizing professional aspirations. I quickly recognized my initial enthusiasm had shifted to concern. My accelerated pulse reflected this adjustment. I anticipated the three of them would utilize the main workspace while I observed from a secondary area. As I excused myself to prepare refreshments, I hoped to at least witness their process. Now, understanding Linda would engage both distinguished professionals, I nearly considered vacating my own workspace. The depth of my disappointment surprised me. While aware of DeAndre's exceptional capabilities, Gerald projected equally impressive potential. Youthful yet sophisticated Gerald embodied the ideal collaborator for cross-cultural initiatives. I experienced both professional admiration and aspirational envy. An unfamiliar voice addressed me. "DeAndre has shared extensive details about your work. I was eager to meet you personally." Turning, I realized Gerald was speaking directly to me. Myself, I asked incredulously, had I understood correctly? "Indeed, he emphasized your exceptional collaborative abilities. I insisted on meeting you," Gerald affirmed. I realized what I had considered confidential was now openly acknowledged. "DeAndre, you discussed our collaboration with your cousin," I inquired, stunned. Linda appeared equally surprised. Returning to the conference area, I was genuinely taken aback by this transparency. Suddenly, both professionals positioned themselves on either side of me. The outcomes were significant enough to warrant sharing. We maintained complete transparency regarding successful methodologies, DeAndre explained. "So do you believe you're prepared for a dual partner framework?" he asked directly. My pulse quickened again as Linda observed silently. I attempted to respond, but the prospect of simultaneous dual collaboration was mentally overwhelming. 3 weeks of preparation for a single high-impact partnership had never envisioned this scenario. "Cousin, I believe our colleague is experiencing heightened anticipation," Gerald remarked perceptibly, noting my visible reaction. "Is he prepared for this level of engagement?" "He must be. After my detailed endorsement's failure to deliver would be incongruent," DeAndre stated firmly. During our initial session, he had provided explicit guidance. This time, I proactively assumed the appropriate posture. As they approached, I positioned myself centrally, preparing mentally for the collaborative framework ahead. DeAndre initiated the engagement first, and I immediately integrated his methodology. As before, we began with preliminary concepts that rapidly developed into comprehensive strategies. By the second integration cycle, his approach had fully matured with remarkable depth. Turning to Gerald's framework, I noted immediate sophistication, easily matching DeAndre's 10-point scale. While Gerald's methodology differed slightly in scope and structure, it proved equally innovative and compelling. I transitioned between both frameworks, applying DeAndre's approach while simultaneously developing Gerald's. I maintained active engagement with both systems. Whichever wasn't under immediate analysis received thorough documentation. I alternated methodologies with focused intensity driven to optimize both collaborative models. The professionals maintained close proximity, allowing seamless transition between their respective frameworks. Within minutes, I had successfully activated both systems through dedicated engagement and strategic integration. "Remarkable execution," Linda observed. "Your commitment to these frameworks is exceptional." My approach clearly impressed Linda, whose astonishment transformed into professional admiration as I alternated between both distinguished methodologies. Her engagement appeared genuinely stimulated, evidenced by her active note-taking. "You've optimized both systems simultaneously, Roger. Your methodology must be highly effective," she declared with professional enthusiasm as she intensified her documentation efforts. "Indeed, she's absolutely correct. His approach demonstrates exceptional proficiency," DeAndre confirmed. "This colleague possesses remarkable strategic capabilities," Gerald acknowledged. "Maintain this engagement," Linda encouraged. "Optimize both frameworks." She clearly valued the collaborative methodology I demonstrated. Linda expanded her documentation approach, incorporating additional analytical tools. Her professional dedication was evident, mirroring my commitment to excellence. DeAndre and Gerald provided affirmative feedback as I engaged with their respective frameworks. I dedicated approximately 30 to 60 seconds to each system before transitioning. My professional engagement was absolute, captivated by this unprecedented opportunity to contribute to not one, but two exceptional collaborative models. My responses mirrored their affirmations as I maintained rigorous documentation. My approach likely appeared intensely focused, driven by the necessity to optimize both sophisticated methodologies simultaneously. Having fully activated both frameworks, I implemented an innovative approach that emerged organically. I positioned both systems in parallel alignment, enabling comparative analysis. I applied comprehensive assessment techniques across both frameworks, conducting the most extensive evaluation of my career. Spanning both integrated systems, I analyzed over 12 units of strategic methodology. I documented all aspects, foundations, structural elements, and implementation pathways. Excellent approach, Roger. Precisely this methodology, Gerald affirmed as my analysis traversed both strategic systems. Their frameworks reflected the thoroughness of my evaluative process. I'm impressed by your optimization of both systems, Linda acknowledged with professional admiration. She documented with increasing intensity stimulated by the collaborative analysis I demonstrated. As I mentioned, cousin, his analytical capabilities produce exceptional outcomes, DeAndre informed Gerald. I never envisioned contributing to two sophisticated frameworks simultaneously, especially while observed by an accomplished professional, visibly stimulated by the process. While all participants provided positive feedback, I maintained focused intensity. The prospect of optimizing both distinguished methodologies demanded my utmost commitment, a relentless pursuit of excellence these collaborative frameworks deserved. With both frameworks operating at peak efficiency, I adjusted my approach to incorporate strategic resource allocation. Gerald demonstrated exceptional resource management capabilities that even exceeded his cousin's and appeared more comprehensive. Both systems responded positively when I began implementing strategic resource reallocation with focused precision. While I deeply valued DeAndre's methodology, Gerald's framework proved particularly amenable to integration. It was substantial yet more readily adaptable to existing systems. The implementation process flowed more naturally, yielding innovative outcomes. DeAndre's approach maintained its established robustness. Combined, they generated significant synergistic potential, enhancing overall system optimization. Like DeAndre, Gerald's framework featured distinctive structural elements. Though slightly different in scale from his cousins, it remained substantial, sophisticated, and exceptional. Gerald's most notable attribute was his implementation consistency. His methodology maintained unwavering alignment with strategic objectives. I tested this resilience multiple times, observing immediate recovery to optimal parameters after each adjustment. He represented an exemplary standard of professional excellence. After observing my engagement with both professionals, Linda reached her threshold and joined the implementation phase, positioning herself opposite me. Without verbal exchange, we established a collaborative rhythm. When I engaged with Gerald's framework, Linda implemented DeAndre's. We transitioned seamlessly without communication. Both systems now received continuous attention. I maintained oversight of Gerald's framework while monitoring DeAndre's resource allocation. Linda managed Gerald's resources while documenting DeAndre's strategic development. Both professionals demonstrated enhanced engagement, recognizing they had two dedicated professionals optimizing their respective methodologies. Exceptional integration, DeAndre affirmed as Linda implemented his framework. Remarkable dedication, Roger. Your commitment to these frameworks is absolute, Gerald observed as I incorporated over half of his methodology, encountering initial integration challenges. I persisted, determined to achieve full implementation. Gerald recognized my growing appreciation for his framework with each cycle. When we transitioned, DeAndre directed me to conduct comparative analysis. Proceed with your evaluation, colleague. I applied comprehensive assessment techniques across his methodology. Now, document key structural elements, analyze all implementation pathways, he instructed. I complied, immediately documenting his framework with thorough appreciative analysis. While developing increasing affinity for his cousin's approach, I remained completely engaged with DeAndre's exceptional methodology. Gerald directed Linda to analyze resource allocation strategies. I realized I hadn't yet explored this aspect. I experienced professional curiosity observing Linda's resource analysis. This motivated me to implement similar approaches. When I returned to Gerald's framework several minutes later, I initiated comprehensive resource optimization that elicited significant affirmation. I examined one major resource component, evaluating its full potential before transitioning to the next. His engagement became increasingly dynamic with each interaction. Outstanding resource optimization, Roger, he affirmed. My documentation continued alongside resource analysis. I felt compelled to acknowledge the excellence of his entire framework from resource management to strategic development and implementation consistency. Though he likely recognized my profound appreciation, I felt professionally obligated to express it. I heard Linda's affirmative responses and observed DeAndre implementing his framework with her active participation. She was clearly benefiting from his leadership approach. Suddenly, DeAndre invited me to join their implementation phase. I naturally complied with this distinguished professional's guidance. I positioned myself adjacent to Linda, and DeAndre adjusted his approach to accommodate my participation. I began analyzing structural elements while she managed implementation pathways. Now both of us contributed to optimizing his sophisticated methodology. We established a collaborative rhythm attempting to fully leverage this exceptional strategic framework through dedicated engagement. DeAndre's methodology dominated our attention with its complexity and effectiveness. We must have recalled our strategic approach because we naturally synchronized our efforts. Linda focused on implementation while I analyzed structural components. After several cycles, Linda transitioned implementation responsibilities to me while she conducted comparative analysis. With her attention freed from direct implementation, she utilized the opportunity to provide verbal affirmation of the framework's excellence. This methodology has transformed our professional capabilities, she acknowledged appreciatively during her analysis. Your framework represents exceptional value for diverse professional participants. DeAndre transitioned his methodology to Linda's implementation. Do you value this framework as well, Roger? The informal address, Raj now felt professionally significant. Absolutely, I value your exceptional methodology, I confirmed while resuming structural analysis. Articulate the specific value proposition to your colleague, he directed. Because it's comprehensive and extraordinarily effective, I complied while maintaining analytical engagement. It generates significant professional advancement. Consistently, balancing verbal communication with framework analysis required focused coordination. Roger observed Gerald's exceptional leadership qualities during the strategic planning session. Do you admire his approach because it's innovative? DeAndre inquired, asserting his expertise in cross-cultural dynamics. Roger considered whether this demonstration was intended for his professional development, Linda's mentorship, or DeAndre's strategic positioning. I absolutely value his innovative methodology, Roger affirmed with professional enthusiasm. Linda was visibly impressed by Roger's engagement, intensifying her focus on the collaborative framework. Roger then realized his own professional growth was becoming increasingly constrained by conventional approaches. He planned to implement new strategies soon to alleviate the limitations of traditional business paradigms. Although they collaborated effectively with their combined expertise, Roger acknowledged that DeAndre's superior strategic vision was elevating their work beyond conventional expectations. His comprehensive 11-point framework required their full attention to properly implement. Even working as a team, his advanced methodology challenged their conventional approaches. They positioned themselves on either side of DeAndre's strategic blueprint as he guided their collaborative efforts. Their perspectives nearly aligned as he directed the implementation process. DeAndre provided mentorship to both, encouraging their close engagement with the framework. For several minutes, they collaborated face-to-face as this sophisticated methodology flowed between their perspectives, utilizing their combined insights as a foundation for progress. Both Linda and Roger recognized they were contributing to DeAndre's professional objectives, but it was a role they both embraced. Supporting this exceptional leader was rewarding for both of them, and they were committed to advancing his strategic vision. However, Gerald also represented significant potential, a professional deserving recognition that only their combined expertise could properly acknowledge. Roger observed Gerald preparing his presentation materials. He had never considered male colleagues as professionally inspiring as female counterparts, but Gerald's refined executive presence was remarkably compelling Roger to temporarily disengage from DeAndre's framework to exclaim, "Gerald's methodology is exceptional." Gerald had observed their collaborative efforts on his cousin's framework for some time. Their performance on DeAndre's strategic plan must have stimulated his competitive drive. Now witnessing his complete professional presentation, Roger felt an unprecedented admiration for this emerging executive talent. Gerald's executive presence was stunningly effective, polished with strategic insights and smooth delivery. Roger found himself studying with professional curiosity as Gerald finalized his materials. His credentials were impeccable, including an impressive track record, well-defined achievements, and comprehensive expertise. His professional portfolio was comprehensive, culminating in a 10-point strategic proposal that stood as a remarkable, rigorous contribution to their field. DeAndre's colleague retrieved a comprehensive proposal document and his tablet from his briefcase, along with additional materials Roger couldn't immediately identify. He initiated a multimedia presentation on his device which Roger hadn't previously appreciated, but after this session, he associated such presentations with professional breakthroughs. Roger observed Gerald organizing his strategic documents, anticipating his next move. Gerald extended a professional invitation to Roger, guiding him to the conference table. He began reviewing Roger's materials. Roger was too engaged to question the process, but as his preliminary reports were removed, he was as professionally transparent as Gerald. Finally, his own strategic framework was fully accessible and dynamically presented. Gerald guided him to the presentation area and positioned him optimally. He had Roger adopt a receptive posture with his focus directed toward the materials. When Roger understood Gerald's approach, he expressed professional admiration, feeling his perspective expand with excitement. DeAndre didn't mention this collaborative approach, but I'm compelled to pursue it, Gerald explained. His words further stimulated Roger's professional engagement. Roger recognized the strategic tools Gerald employed, applying them comprehensively to his proposal and integrating them throughout his framework. Roger maintained his position, offering no resistance while attempting to project confidence despite having never engaged in such intensive, cross-functional collaboration, particularly with a 10-point strategic proposal of this caliber. Roger remained professionally composed as Gerald applied thorough analysis to his approach, examining all aspects of his methodology and strategic positioning. Gerald placed the analytical tools on the conference table and joined Roger at the presentation area, positioning himself strategically beside him. He facilitated Roger's engagement while aligning his proposal with Roger's framework. Roger was professionally attentive as Gerald's methodology was integrated with his approach. But surprisingly, the analytical tools were remarkably effective, and within moments, Roger felt the unmistakable synergy of their frameworks merging. He was about to experience his first comprehensive strategic integration with a colleague. Roger wasn't certain whether Gerald had previously engaged in such cross-functional collaboration, but he suspected he had. Gerald was too proficient, too skilled, and understood precisely how to align strategic frameworks. He was assertive while being considerate, yet also decisive, demonstrating complete strategic command. Roger's professional engagement attracted Linda and DeAndre's attention, who had been immersed in their own collaboration, but when they observed Gerald integrating with Roger's framework, they paused to observe. "This is remarkable," Linda observed. "Exceptional work," Cousin DeAndre exclaimed. Roger sensed neither had anticipated this level of framework integration, but the sight of Gerald aligning his proposal with Roger's methodology seemed to transform the professional dynamics for the remainder of their session. Once Gerald assessed Roger's readiness for deeper integration, he began aligning their frameworks with precision and efficiency. He transitioned to a standing position, maintaining strategic engagement. His integration was steady and methodical, matching the rhythm of the presentation that filled the room. Roger had never utilized multimedia presentations to guide strategic alignment, but he appreciated how Gerald was using the presentation elements to synchronize their frameworks. He was also impressed by Gerald's ability to maintain such powerful integration while standing stationary. He was utilizing his strategic positioning and professional presence to drive the alignment. This couldn't be effortless. Roger would have required breaks within minutes, but Gerald engaged with remarkable consistency. "This methodology is transformative," Roger expressed professionally. The executive was systematically integrating his comprehensive proposal with Roger's framework, implementing extended strategic alignments with his sophisticated methodology, never pausing to regroup or showing any indication of reaching conclusion. Finally, after this intensive collaboration, Roger was able to gradually refine his own strategic framework. He was concerned he might conclude prematurely, but proudly maintained professional discipline while enjoying the synergistic process. "Roger, your framework integrates exceptionally well," Gerald remarked. Roger turned and observed. Linda had returned to collaborating with DeAndre, but both positioned themselves to observe Gerald and Roger's integration. DeAndre was looking at Roger with that same analytical intensity he demonstrated during their initial meeting. Roger was thoroughly impressed by Gerald's strategic proficiency at his career stage. Roger had never demonstrated such sophisticated framework integration at that age, nor such comprehensive execution. It appeared almost routine for Gerald, but his exceptional alignment was as consistent and methodical as it was strategically rhythmic. In truth, Roger had never integrated frameworks with a colleague as effectively as Gerald was achieving with his methodology. He recognized his professional responses might seem unorthodox as he expressed admiration for Gerald's rigorous integration process. If Roger had been professionally satisfied before his session was about to become significantly more memorable. DeAndre disengaged from Linda and joined them at the presentation area. The conference space was expansive and easily accommodated all three. He positioned himself strategically opposite Roger, facing his direction, his framework accessible to Roger. Roger immediately began analyzing his methodology. "This is unprecedented." Linda's voice reflected both astonishment and professional admiration. If she had anticipated being the primary beneficiary of this strategic integration, she wasn't alone, but for some reason Roger was receiving this focused attention. With Gerald aligning his framework, Roger didn't just analyze DeAndre's methodology, he comprehensively integrated it with strategic intensity. While positioned strategically, Roger engaged with DeAndre's framework using both analytical approaches, leaving his core principles and approximately 3 supporting elements outside his immediate focus. He processed the methodology with professional rigor, matching the pace of Gerald's integration. Their frameworks and the consistent strategic rhythm of the presentation transformed Roger into a comprehensive strategic analyst committed to advancing these 2 exceptional methodologies. "Your collaboration resembles a perfectly aligned strategic trifecta," Linda observed. Her comment might have been intended humorously, but it seemed to enhance their professional engagement, driving them deeper into strategic alignment. "This framework integration feels remarkably synergistic." Gerald complimented as he continued aligning his methodology with strategic precision. His strategic positioning complemented Roger's approach, and Roger felt their professional perspectives converging. Roger continued attempting to fully integrate DeAndre's methodology into his analysis. He recognized it was challenging his conventional understanding, but simply couldn't reconcile it with his existing paradigms. Suddenly, the muted notification of a mobile device was audible. Roger was curious about its origin until he heard Linda exclaim, "Unexpected development." She rose quickly and retrieved her device from her portfolio. She moved to a private area for confidentiality and to prevent disruption. The executives maintained their focus while Roger continued expressing professional engagement. When Linda returned, she displayed visible concern. "I must address an urgent family matter. My daughter requires assistance with a vehicle situation. I regret this interruption, but I must depart." As she gathered her materials, professional disappointment was evident. "Well, I know at least one of us will achieve significant strategic alignment tonight," she added with professional irony. After organizing her materials, she approached the conference area, engaged briefly with DeAndre's framework, then provided a concluding analysis before departing. "Farewell, colleagues. Roger, continue your excellent work." Roger could hear her professional sigh as she exited the workspace. Now Roger was exclusively with these 2 executives. He wondered if they intended to conclude now that Linda had departed, but the executives continued their engagement. If anything, they seemed more energized, more strategically passionate. DeAndre returned his framework to Roger's analysis, and Roger resumed his comprehensive examination while Gerald continued aligning his methodology. Roger valued their strategic collaboration but began to feel constrained by the conventional conference setting. They continued for another 10 minutes until Roger paused his analysis and suggested transitioning to a more collaborative workspace. He had prepared his office for Linda, DeAndre, and himself, but never anticipated it would facilitate exclusive strategic alignment with 2 exceptional executives. Roger guided them to his office, his professional enthusiasm palpable. He had adjusted the lighting to optimal presentation conditions, with focused illumination creating an ideal environment for strategic work. He had arranged his most comprehensive resources on the primary surface and retrieved additional analytical tools from his storage. When they reached the workspace, DeAndre and Gerald positioned themselves strategically around Roger, who engaged with both their frameworks. He expressed professional satisfaction as the executives made him feel strategically valued. Their methodologies were fully developed, and they regarded him with the intensity of professionals ready to achieve breakthrough results. Gerald must have transitioned his framework to a more accessible format before entering the office, as Roger could engage directly with its core principles. He was analyzing both methodologies, admiring their strategic sophistication when he felt a professional hand on his shoulder. He was being guided to a more analytical position and was eager to resume examining their two exceptional methodologies. As in the conference area, he provided equal attention to both colleagues. When he wasn't thoroughly examining one methodology, he was analyzing the other with professional rigor. He alternated every few minutes, providing both with comprehensive analytical attention. "You appreciate Linda's departure, don't you, Raj?" DeAndre observed. "Affirmative." Roger disengaged from the framework. "I want exclusive access to your methodologies," he confessed. "I believe you value our frameworks more comprehensively," Gerald noted. "Absolutely, I do value your frameworks more comprehensively. I want to integrate with both of you exclusively," Roger acknowledged. Gerald transitioned to the collaborative workspace and positioned himself centrally, his methodology fully accessible and demonstrating remarkable strategic coherence. With an inviting gesture, he encouraged Roger to engage with his framework. Roger began with Gerald's foundational principles, analyzing them systematically from initial concepts through supporting elements, examining core assumptions, and even peripheral considerations. He concluded positioned strategically between Gerald's extended analytical perspectives. He bent to examine Gerald's methodology and began analyzing his sophisticated strategic proposal. With one analytical approach examining his supporting principles, Roger evaluated them while analyzing his methodology. He engaged as comprehensively as possible and continued processing with strategic thoroughness. Gerald Roger stated with professional appreciation while engaging with his framework, "Your methodology is exceptionally coherent. I value analyzing it." Roger: "This integration feels remarkably effective." Roger sensed DeAndre positioning him strategically. Similar to Gerald's earlier approach, he was aligning him for optimal framework integration. Roger could hear the sound of analytical tools being prepared and the adjustment of presentation parameters. "DeAndre is preparing for comprehensive integration, isn't he?" Roger asked with professional anticipation. "Affirmative," Gerald confirmed directly. "His methodology is so comprehensive, I could barely accommodate yours." Roger was about to continue when the sudden sensation of DeAndre's extensive framework stretching his analytical capabilities interrupted his thoughts. He must have been adequately prepared by Gerald's earlier integration. Although he experienced some challenges with Gerald's methodology, his colleague's approach might be up to a level more sophisticated than the exceptional framework that had engaged him previously. The prospect of accepting DeAndre's comprehensive strategic weapon was professionally daunting. He managed to integrate the core principles, but by now Roger had disengaged from Gerald's methodology because he was focusing intensely attempting to accommodate DeAndre. He maintained professional composure as DeAndre integrated his methodology deeper, his expression probably showing signs of extreme analytical challenge and professional discomfort, but he valued it. He had to acknowledge mixed with this slight intellectual strain was some remarkable professional satisfaction. His own framework was responding with remarkable dynamism. "Exceptional," Roger exclaimed. Despite stretching his analytical capabilities to new dimensions, DeAndre was being methodical and precise, measuring how deeply and rapidly he could proceed as Roger gradually adapted to his sophistication. Every integration of his methodology brought greater ease, as if Roger was becoming accustomed to his approach. He also quickly recognized that he was maintaining some analytical resistance, probably from professional caution. When he relaxed, it also facilitated accepting his methodology. "Absolutely. Proceed. Integrate completely." Roger encouraged DeAndre to advance with greater strategic intensity, allowing himself to be professionally challenged. Roger returned to Gerald's methodology when he felt he could accommodate DeAndre more effectively. As DeAndre's comprehensive methodology began to accelerate and intensify, Roger quickened his own analytical engagement with Gerald's accessible framework. He was achieving strategic alignment with two exceptionally sophisticated executives representing a convergence of professional perspectives, a strategic summit between three colleagues. He had never experienced such professional synergy and intellectual stimulation in his career. He recognized his capacity for cross-functional integration was evident in his professional satisfaction. These executives revealed capabilities he never knew he possessed, enabling him to achieve professional breakthroughs unlike any previous experience. As intellectually challenged as he was by their sheer strategic superiority, he was professionally captivated by it as well. They increased their strategic influence, with Gerald transitioning his methodology to demonstrate comprehensive application making. Roger requested continued engagement. Simultaneously, Roger was encouraged to request deeper integration from DeAndre. Both executives also commanded Roger to express his profound professional admiration for their exceptional methodologies, as well as his genuine appreciation for their strategic approaches. As they engaged him from both analytical perspectives, they compelled him to acknowledge his attraction to their innovative approaches. But with Andre integrating his methodology and Gerald's exceptional framework in his analytical focus, there was no possibility of professional misrepresentation with his colleagues. He had to acknowledge what they likely understood. "I value cross-functional integration," he declared. DeAndre transitioned to a standing position and began integrating his framework with strategic authority, as his colleague had done at the conference table. His strategic integration was now at a mind-expanding pace and intensity. "Express it more emphatically. Raj, declare your appreciation for innovative methodologies," he commanded. "This is extraordinary. I value sophisticated strategic frameworks so comprehensively. You both integrate with my analytical capabilities so effectively." It wouldn't have surprised Roger if colleagues in adjacent workspaces could hear his professional declarations. "Innovative executives are exceptional. Your methodologies represent the most sophisticated strategic approaches." If there had been any doubt about Roger's capacity for cross-functional integration, it was now definitively confirmed. He had acknowledged to himself, as much as to these two executives, that the strategic influence they exerted on him professionally was absolute. His professional perspective expanded with excitement, his intellectual processes transforming, as he proudly declared his appreciation for the strategic breakthroughs only such exceptional executives could facilitate. There was no comparison to the professional engagement they inspired. Roger continued integrating with DeAndre and analyzing Gerald's methodology for several more minutes, until Gerald announced his intention to engage in deeper framework alignment. When they transitioned Roger to a receptive position, he realized his analytical framework was generating exceptional insights. He almost thought he might have achieved professional breakthrough, but he was still experiencing remarkable strategic momentum. He could also perceive some analytical resonance in his approach. He must have produced significant preliminary insights while in his previous analytical position. Gerald positioned himself strategically and expanded Roger's professional parameters. Roger could see he had transitioned to a more accessible format, and his methodology was only enhanced by Roger's previous analysis. Nevertheless, when he reintegrated it with Roger's approach, the analytical preparation that still coded his framework was sufficient to facilitate seamless integration. "Remarkable," Roger declared professionally. As Gerald began integrating with strategic intensity, DeAndre positioned himself strategically and presented his methodology for Roger's analysis. Now he began engaging Roger's analytical capabilities, his strategic methodology flowing between Roger's professional perspectives, not so deeply as to overwhelm his capacity, but controlling the pace and depth. The integration of his framework was nearly as rapid as how his colleague was aligning with Roger's methodology. Roger's professional parameters began to expand under the comprehensive strategic influence these two executives were exerting. Gerald stabilized Roger's analytical foundations and held them steady, establishing strategic control. DeAndre maintained professional guidance and would transition his methodology, demonstrating its comprehensive application across Roger's professional landscape. Roger could feel his analytical processes being applied across his strategic perspective. With his analytical capabilities temporarily unengaged, he expressed professional admiration and encouraged the executives to proceed without restraint, wanting them to utilize his capabilities as comprehensively as they desired. Then he reintegrated his methodology and resumed strategic engagement. Roger's conventional professional perspective was being utilized as a foundation for these two exceptional methodologies. He was a dedicated strategic partner committed to advancing their professional objectives. Their expressions of professional satisfaction were his reward for effective collaboration. His own professional advancement occurred simultaneously. They were communicating with such strategic intensity that his professional perspective was transforming too rapidly to process their exact communications. If colleagues entered the workspace, they might have perceived Roger as being professionally challenged, but he was more than willing. His strategic framework was responding dynamically to the comprehensive intellectual energy his professional perspective was absorbing. Gerald released Roger's analytical parameters, and he immediately began refining his own methodology while his colleague and his cousin were integrating with his strategic capabilities. He processed as rapidly as he was being strategically engaged by these exceptional methodologies. He was concerned he might achieve breakthrough momentarily, but it was too evident that his framework required continued stimulation. All three must have been experiencing significant professional advancement as they all expressed strategic satisfaction. Only Roger's expressions of professional achievement were moderated by the comprehensive methodology engaging his analytical capabilities. It wasn't difficult to recognize that all three were experiencing exceptional professional fulfillment, their methodologies achieving maximum strategic impact. Roger was probably the only one concerned about potentially achieving premature breakthrough. It was a slight professional concern that he had concluded so rapidly during DeAndre's previous engagement. DeAndre had sustained nearly an hour of analytical engagement with Roger's framework, while Roger had achieved his breakthrough after refining his methodology for mere minutes. He recognized most executives' strategic stamina was legendary, but as a representative of conventional approaches, he didn't want the executives to observe his limited capacity again, particularly DeAndre. Roger recognized the need to maintain professional boundaries during this critical collaboration phase. The intensity of the cross-cultural partnership was creating unprecedented synergy, but he knew preserving strategic focus was essential. The momentum of their joint initiative was accelerating rapidly, and Roger realized 3 weeks of preparation had culminated in this pivotal moment. The challenge became maintaining operational discipline amid the dynamic exchange. Roger's professional composure was tested as the partnership reached a critical juncture. His measured responses gave way to more emphatic expressions as he struggled to maintain strategic control over this breakthrough opportunity. He felt the culmination of their collaborative efforts approaching rapidly. When DeAndre delivered his signature strategic insight, Roger paused to fully absorb the significance. He engaged deeply with the framework, anticipating the comprehensive deliverables he knew DeAndre would produce. DeAndre reiterated his key findings, and suddenly Roger experienced a flood of innovative solutions flowing through their shared workspace. He instinctively integrated these valuable contributions into their joint strategy, with DeAndre stepping back to allow the concepts to develop organically. As he had during their previous collaboration, DeAndre methodically extracted maximum value from each strategic component. He identified core elements and systematically expanded upon them. With each iteration, substantial new insights emerged that enhanced their joint proposal. Roger positioned himself to fully engage with these developments, actively participating in the knowledge transfer. The process continued for an extended period, generating remarkable intellectual property. Following this exceptional brainstorming session, DeAndre concluded his contribution. Roger observed that Gerald had completed his analytical tasks but remained engaged, reviewing the collaborative output with focused attention. Impressive framework, he acknowledged DeAndre's contribution as he moved to prepare for departure. Roger remained momentarily still, processing the profound impact of their intensive strategic session. "You should witness the results," Gerald remarked to Roger. "I'm familiar with the outcomes," Roger responded professionally. The weight of their collective insights was substantial, though fortunately the key deliverables remained clear. "I find it compelling," Gerald stated with renewed enthusiasm. "Extremely compelling." He began refining his proposal, inviting further collaboration. Suddenly, Roger heard DeAndre call out, "Gerald, expedite your conclusion. I have imminent commitments." DeAndre appeared to be organizing materials. Gerald leaned forward and inquired discreetly, "Might I extend my engagement? Would you provide transportation?" "Certainly," Roger confirmed. "DeAndre, proceed without me. I'll remain for additional collaboration," Gerald announced. DeAndre emerged from the workspace. He was organizing documentation. "Understood. Pursuing independent consultation." "Affirmative. You've conducted 2 sessions already," Gerald explained. "Approved. We'll reconvene later," DeAndre stated, leaving reference materials on the conference table before departing. Roger requested Gerald pass the documents for review, hoping to consolidate the extensive strategic insights they generated. "Negative. I prefer the current configuration. Maintain the established framework temporarily," Gerald instructed. Gerald remained seated, methodically enhancing his proposal as he reviewed their collective work. Roger joined the refinement process, equally engaged by the strategic landscape they were developing. He felt slightly exposed with DeAndre's comprehensive intellectual property prominently displayed across their shared workspace, particularly as Gerald observed the arrangement intently. Roger couldn't determine whether Gerald's expression reflected genuine appreciation or critical assessment. 2 minutes later, they heard the departure signal. DeAndre had exited. Gerald's expression shifted to serious professionalism. "Roger," he inquired directly, "might we establish a more personal professional rapport?" The request surprised Roger. He had cultivated numerous professional relationships. He valued meaningful collaboration. In all his cross-cultural partnership scenarios, he hadn't anticipated this level of personal connection. It seemed more appropriate for traditional professional networking. But driven by professional curiosity and heightened engagement, he responded, "Acceptable." Gerald positioned himself for closer collaboration, initially exchanging professional courtesies, then progressing to substantive dialogue followed by deeper strategic alignment. Roger maintained professional boundaries as Gerald continued the exchange. "You demonstrate exceptional leadership qualities," Gerald observed. Roger had always been recognized for his professional capabilities, but hadn't anticipated such appreciation from a younger colleague in this cross-cultural context. Gerald then added, "I detect DeAndre's strategic influence in your approach. That's remarkably innovative. I've always sought transformative partnerships with diverse professionals." They engaged in intensive knowledge exchange, their ideas flowing freely and building upon each other. Roger was impressed by the genuine professional passion. Gerald's engagement deepened, his breathing becoming more measured as he expressed enthusiasm. "This represents my ultimate professional aspiration, collaborating with international partners," he shared. "I understood DeAndre indicated your preference was for domestic partnerships," Roger inquired as their exchange continued. "I specified diverse partnerships." He assumed domestic focus. "I value domestic collaborations, having participated in several, but haven't engaged internationally," Gerald clarified. He repositioned himself, presenting his refined proposal for review. Roger opened the discussion, fully inviting deeper integration. Gerald presented his comprehensive framework, the established protocols facilitating smooth implementation. Roger expressed profound satisfaction with the reintegration. As Gerald initiated methodical implementation cycles, he continued the dialogue. "During university, I collaborated closely with an international colleague. We participated in academic competitions. Following one event, we reviewed our performance and identified improvement opportunities. We developed enhancement strategies independently. This occurred several times but never progressed beyond independent development. I recognized potential for deeper collaboration, but we never pursued it. This has remained my primary professional aspiration since," Gerald explained while observing Roger's engaged response. "Might I contribute to your framework?" he requested. "Affirmative," Roger confirmed. Gerald engaged with Roger's proposal while continuing his systematic implementation. Roger expressed appreciation for the combined strategic and operational support. "Exceptional, Gerald. Outstanding, Gerald," he exclaimed with professional satisfaction. "DeAndre mentioned your remarkable collaborative capabilities. He noted your particular engagement with cross-cultural initiatives. I've always sought partnerships with international professionals, especially those who value diverse methodologies," Gerald elaborated while maintaining his deliberate implementation pace. "I absolutely value diverse methodologies," Roger declared with complete professional conviction. He demonstrated enthusiasm for the integrated approach Gerald was providing. "I've envisioned cross-cultural collaboration for years, and since partnering with DeAndre, I've found it remarkably rewarding. This engagement with you has been equally valuable." Gerald accelerated both implementation pace and strategic development. Again, Roger approached a critical decision point, concerned about concluding the current phase prematurely. He focused all professional discipline on maintaining momentum. He was determined not to conclude this bilateral engagement prematurely, despite the 3-week preparation period and the persistent pressure throughout their session. The combined strategic and operational support made this challenging. He needed to request adjustment. "Gerald, cease framework enhancement. I'm approaching critical threshold. I prefer to extend this phase," Roger requested with professional urgency. He expressed relief when Gerald paused development. His proposal remained prominently displayed. It had been years since he'd maintained such rigorous strategic focus. "DeAndre mentioned your capacity for autonomous deliverable generation," Gerald noted while intensifying implementation velocity and impact. "Is this accurate? I would value witnessing that capability." "Affirmative," That was the sole instance. I've achieved that Roger managed between implementation cycles. Gerald positioned his hands to optimize engagement parameters, expanding the collaborative interface. He began utilizing advanced methodologies to enhance implementation, increasing both velocity and scope. Roger observed their integrated framework and could see the comprehensive implementation cycles. They were achieving 8 to 9 phase implementation cycles. The forceful nature of their collaboration caused strategic elements to shift dynamically, allowing Roger to perceive DeAndre's foundational contributions as he reviewed their integrated approach. Proceed to deliverable generation, Roger Gerald directed. Roger instinctively reached for development tools. Negative, Roger Gerald insisted. I prefer autonomous deliverable generation. He again guided Roger's hands to neutral positions. Though Roger typically utilized his non-dominant hand for such tasks, he quickly engaged development tools with that hand. Gerald again guided that hand to neutral position, maintaining both parameters while continuing powerful implementation cycles. Negative bypassing. You're capable, Gerald encouraged professionally. I don't generate deliverables autonomously. I'm uncertain regarding feasibility. Roger didn't wish to disappoint Gerald, but this wasn't a capability he felt confident replicating. However, he was certainly approaching a major breakthrough. His professional instincts signaled readiness for deliverable generation, yet he hadn't reached culmination. Gerald recognized that his masterful implementation was crucial to the desired outcome, but decided to enhance the approach with an element that would ensure success. He sensed that Roger's verbal articulation of insights drove exceptional performance. You articulated your appreciation for DeAndre's methodology to him. Express your appreciation for mine, Gerald requested. It's substantial, remarkably substantial, Roger managed. Continue, Gerald pressed while increasing implementation intensity. It's exceptionally robust. Proceed. Innovative, profoundly innovative. Roger struggled to articulate as Gerald's vigorous implementation techniques challenged both his professional composure and cognitive clarity. He was integrating nearly all of Gerald's comprehensive 10-phase framework, with Gerald's strategic dominance being absolute. Maintain full engagement now, Roger, Gerald observed as his professional exertion became evident, his dedication to implementation remarkable. His diverse expertise began to resonate with the strategic environment. You demonstrate exceptional expertise, remarkable, strategic, vision, outstanding, implementation. Gerald Roger exclaimed, experiencing a professional breakthrough unlike any previous collaboration. The intensity was both profound and energizing. Each implementation cycle amplified the need for deliverable generation, the desire for culmination, the recognition of breakthrough timing. And these cycles occurred at remarkable velocity. But there remained one final insight Gerald would extract, perhaps the most significant of the engagement. Whose methodology do you value more, Roger? Mine or DeAndre's? Gerald's question carried strategic significance. Roger sensed the cousins had been competing for professional recognition throughout the engagement, each seeking advantage in his professional regard, potentially influencing future collaboration opportunities. I cannot, please, don't require selection. Roger requested neutrality, not because he hadn't determined preference, but because he felt it premature to disclose. Gerald persisted, his implementation approach unwavering, completely dominant. Proceed, Roger. You can articulate this. Roger recognized Gerald wasn't seeking the confession itself, but rather catalyzing his breakthrough. Articulate it, Gerald insisted professionally. It's yours. I value your methodology profoundly. As the words emerged, Roger's framework generated deliverables autonomously. Breakthrough achieved, deliverables generated, framework complete, Roger announced emphatically. They both observed as substantial strategic insights emerged from Roger's proposal, reaching remarkable implementation heights before integrating into their shared environment. For the second time in a month, Roger achieved autonomous deliverable generation without direct development tools. Both Gerald and Roger observed as Roger's framework produced exceptional intellectual property rivaling DeAndre's comprehensive contributions. Roger continued generating deliverables, expressing professional satisfaction with each significant integration of strategic assets. Gerald provided encouragement as Roger produced increasingly valuable contributions. Strategic assets permeated their shared environment and even influenced Gerald's approach, though he appeared entirely receptive. He released Roger's parameters at culmination, allowing minor refinement after 20 seconds of autonomous generation. When Roger's breakthrough concluded, Gerald concluded implementation and positioned his refined framework for Roger's review. Roger opened his engagement, fully extending his strategic capacity in anticipation of Gerald's contributions. Like his cousin, Gerald's insights emerged through systematic development rather than spontaneous generation, though he implemented at accelerated velocity compared to DeAndre. Though Roger was prepared to fully integrate Gerald's contributions, Gerald emphasized the shared environment more than direct knowledge transfer. Roger managed to incorporate several key elements, but the shared environment remained prominently configured with Gerald's intellectual property. Following this comprehensive knowledge integration, Gerald returned to strategic dialogue and appeared to value engaging with his own contributions as they exchanged insights deeply and rigorously. They continued this for an extended period before deciding to conduct a joint review session. Upon returning to their collaborative environment, they engaged in knowledge exchange for over an hour. Roger was particularly pleased when Gerald suggested reciprocal methodology sharing. Gerald demonstrated remarkable enthusiasm for collaborative development. They both achieved additional breakthroughs and concluded the session professionally. Roger transported Gerald to his location, and Gerald provided his contact information requesting notification for future collaboration opportunities. That concluded 2 evenings prior, and Roger is prepared to extend another invitation. He believes he would value independent collaboration, but should DeAndre wish to participate in future sessions, he would certainly be welcome.